Hi, it's Jamie doing the edit. Here to let you know that after a certain point, James disappears from this recording because they were abducted by aliens and or they had some kind of work emergency. You'd have to ask them which. So, now you know.
Hello and welcome back to Podcasting is Praxis, a bonus episode. So, hello patrons. We are here today with Rob.
Hello.
Jamie.
You alright?
James.
Hello.
And returning guests, Liam and Rocz from Though There's a Problem. How you doing?
Doing well.
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Do you?
Great.
As mentioned, I have a low-grade stomach virus, so I've just been pooping an awful lot.
I mean,
Well,
whom's the man?
Hello, it's behind a paywall. Who gives a shit?
I mean, bathroom recordings
You
is what we do
specifically?
behind the paywall. That's
That's
oh
true.
god.
I mean, the last thing
it-
you were on, it was catching Rob taking a piss. So, I mean, it's only really fair that we escalate that to the next level.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's your problem. Incorporates bathroom breaks, because I'm too lazy to say don't worry about it, and I just slip out, take a shit, get a beer, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, fuck it. That's the power of a union.
This is true, yes.
Also, it works out quite well because we were initially worried because we were thinking, oh shit, well, we need to offer them the complimentary Nando's since they're coming to a UK podcast, but obviously we can't get one because apparently chicken is something that the UK is not allowed to have right now. But this happily solves that problem for us.
We can get Nando's in DC. You can send us. You can send a gift card to the PO box. We'll take your free shit.
We'll go find the nearest Nando's, which I'm sure is like, I don't know.
It's in DC, bud.
Is it in DC?
It's in DC, bud.
I didn't know there was a Nando's in DC. I thought
There's
it was
several
a
of
UK
them.
chain.
Oh, I'm so
No,
sorry.
Yeah,
You're-
our sympathies.
You have won the War of 1812.
It's about fucking time. Okay, let's fucking just rattle into this because there's a lot to cover tonight. And
there's a lot to cover. But speaking of animals, a sad update. It turns out that Geronimo the alpaca did not have TB, probably.
So here's a question. Liam and Rocz, do you guys know about Geronimo the alpaca?
Is this the alpaca that was executed by the state for the crime of being in the wrong place?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I unfortunately am familiar with the alpaca.
And a new twist. Keir Starmer has now advocated and supported the death of another innocent at the hands of the state. A worrying pattern.
But yeah, this is after the jackbooted thugs of the state came to take our proud symbol of resistance away, and by that I mean a alpaca surrounded by other people who'd gone mad about alpacas. But just this afternoon, Team Alpaca, the owner and, I don't know, other alpaca fanatics, put out a press release that apparently the alpaca did not have TB in the autopsy. So maybe Geronimo didn't need to be killed at all, or did he?
We'll never know.
Posed a threat to the sovereignty of the United Kingdom.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with this, except it would have been funnier to keep the alpaca alive.
Yeah, but the tree of bureaucracy must be refreshed with the blood of domesticated camelids.
Just think of what they would have.
United Kingdom, a country known for its liberty. Okay, boys.
Just think of what they would have done to that alpaca if Corbyn were in charge, though.
Oh,
Eating
terrible.
it.
If you give me 5 minutes, I can go to the Times website and find out exactly what the dark timeline of Corbyn would have said.
I mean, I thought his campaign slogan of an alpaca in every pot was a bit strange, but, it's fine.
Right. Well,
But it's just the one alpaca in a lot of pieces.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Everybody gets a couple of microns of alpaca. That's your meat ration in the Soviet republics of Corbynistan.
Yeah, but you can grow a whole new alpaca from that.
Yeah, what you do is whenever you cut an alpaca's
Reproduce
head
by
off
budding.
to grow.
It grows into a beautiful alpaca tree.
But yeah, just imagine if Corbyn had won the election, we might be suffering like a shortage of chicken or something right about now.
That'd be terrible.
Or they wouldn't have had the gall to execute the alpaca, and alpacas would become an invasive species in Britain.
So apart from the alpaca, there was one other thing, one British thing that I wanted to talk about, and then we'll do a bit more very international news. I think maybe the best way to call it, and that is there was some documents leaked last week about what will happen when Elizabeth II dies. And there's some
I know the
amazing
answer to
bits
this
in
one. It's party in George Square.
The entirety of Glasgow starts to levitate off the ground. Yes.
No. Strictly 50% of Glasgow will levitate
Actually,
off
yes,
the ground.
that's a fair shout.
It becomes lopsided and flips over the whole city.
Oh, Celtic, no.
So yeah, I mean, I won't bore you with the whole thing. I just picked out some bits that I found amazing. Right after Elizabeth dies, Charles, of course, becomes king, and the first thing that happens is his siblings must all kiss his hands to show that's the sign that they, acknowledge him as the monarch.
What if they don't? What if they don't?
Well,
What
then
if they punch him?
Then it's then we're back to the Wars of the Roses, and then it'll be
Hell
Civil War over
yeah.
again.
See, that sounds good, right? But one of the people involved in that with a side is going to be Andrew.
Yeah, I guess I'll take Charles. That's fucking depressing.
I mean, there's also Edward, but he was too stupid to run a television production company despite being in the royal family. So I'm not sure if he's an improvement either. The other thing that I found was amazing is that apparently within 10 minutes of the death of the Majesty, and the ministry is receiving the code word, which is London Bridge is down, the flags all must be at half-mast. And there was a real concern there for a while whether or not the ministries could actually manage this in under 10 minutes. And they seriously speculated whether or not they should bring in an external contractor, like a flag consultant, to make sure it got down.
Can I just say that I really enjoy the phrase "death of the Majesty"?
What does she say? What does she care? She's dead.
Death of the Majesty specifically describes that moment when you've come back in from a night out and you fall asleep using a kebab as a pillow.
And apparently all the major television studios have like a genuine, I'm not sure if it's red, but it's like an almost like classic James Bond, red phone, which is the radio alert transmission system. And when there's like lights in the studio as well, in every studio in Great Britain, and when the news breaks, the lights start flashing in radio studios and TV studios and everywhere. And that means the DJs have to switch to the news in a couple of minutes, and that means immediately they have to switch to inoffensive music. Every station, down to hospital radio, has prepared music lists made up of Mood 2, brackets sad, or Mood 1, brackets saddest, songs to reach for in times of sudden mourning.
Hold on, I want to go back to this flag thing for a second. They're outside contractors? Like, who are they getting? Are they getting like F1 pit crews?
You have to hope, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a lot of our like big outside contractors have gone bankrupt in the last couple of years, so we may end up getting a pit crew, and that's not exactly out of the question.
We'll get McKinsey in and charge you fuckers £10 billion for the privilege.
Exactly. But said one radio, BBC radio.
I'm sure Matt Hancock's pub landlord knows how to lower a flag.
But yeah, said one BBC radio producer, if you ever hear Haunted Dance Hall, brackets nursery remix by Sabres of Paradise on daytime Radio 1, that's when you know the monarch has died.
Oh, right, okay, so
Really?
this is just like the whole, they'll play, was it Swan Lake or some shit, was the thing where if that was played in the Soviet Union, bad shit was fucking going on and you just weren't supposed to know about it.
Yeah, that's when you know you have to start doffing your cap, essentially.
Fucking brilliant.
I do kind of like the idea of playing, I don't know, No Children by the Mountain Goats. Be like, the queen is dead. You know, there is no sign of land. You are coming down with me. I don't know, man. I mean, what a hell of a transition.
They'll do that. They'll do that when in a month from now, when the United States defaults on its debt obligations, they'll play that on all U.S. radio stations.
Oh well, it's like when Philip died, and there was the BBC Radio 1 dance anthems or some shit was on, and that sounded like this. Oh fuck! I've lost the button.
Buckingham Palace has announced the death of His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh.
I'll never fucking tire of that.
That's a banging track as well. That's pretty good. I like that.
Oh.
But yeah, sadly for all of us plebs, there will, it turns out, not be a national holiday on the day of the funeral. So if you're in Nando's, you will still have to go to work, despite there being no queen and no chicken.
I love that even the Queen fucking dying doesn't warrant a day off of the drudgery of work.
No, of course not. That's
what she would have wanted.
You have to work. You have to work harder in her honor.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
It's actually a double shift day.
I mean, who's going to lower all those flags if everyone gets a day off, right?
Exactly.
Deeply diseased country.
Yes.
Incredibly.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
happens if
and
they
also not at all a racist one, because apparently all the European royal families that will come for the funeral, they will all be put up at Buckingham Palace, or other royals, non-European ones, will have to stay in a hotel nearby.
Oh my God.
I mean, a nice hotel.
They're all family, man. You don't turn your back on family.
What I want to know is what happens with Meghan and Harry in that event?
They get the travel lodge.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
And just as a sign
I'm mildly obsessed with the 10 minutes to lower the flags thing. It's completely insane. Picturing an action movie where they get to 9 minutes and they have to scramble the red arrows to just fly through the flagpoles or something.
Fuck, that's who you have to get. You have to get Jason Statham to do it all in under 10 minutes, or it's hard to
Yeah, what happens if there is a flag that they find out is not lowered? Like, do they have to
She comes back to life.
Oh shit!
No, but this is the thing about Britain, that they can't find anyone to lower the flags in 10 minutes, but they absolutely will be able to find someone to time it to make sure it's down in 10 minutes.
Yes. And just to, during the whole thing, obviously, D-Day is when the Majesty dies, and D+1 is when Charles is formally crowned and installed as the new king. Long live the king. And
that's like an alternative history or something. The D-Day is when she dies trying to storm Idaho Beach. Machine gunned in a prime.
Liz, no.
So yeah, he will, and modern democracy time, he will then at some point step outside on the eastern balcony of Buckingham Palace at Friar's Court, and the roof outside will be covered in red felt. After Charles III now has spoken...
Is he trying to activate some kind of cheat code?
Almost. It pretty much. After Charles now the third has spoken, trumpeters from the Life Guards wearing red plumes in their helmets will step outside, give 3 blasts, and the Garter King of Arms, a genealogist named Thomas Woodcock, will stand on the balcony and begin the ritual proclamations of King Charles III.
And that's how you access the.
How are you a nuclear power?
I know.
Right,
Purely
real
by
talk.
the benefit of you.
Yeah, real talk. You guys own our nukes. We're not like there is considerable debate about whether if Britain wanted to fire the nukes and the US didn't want us to, whether we actually could.
It's the most American thing ever, though, to let your children play with dangerous toys. I think so.
It's more like just not buying a gun safe for your collection of firearms.
I think it's surely it's granny should be armed, which feels very American.
But yeah, for the
Did we at least take you guys to the range once or twice, just to learn some gun safety?
Yeah. We're probably obligated to do that.
I think the only times
is that what Afghanistan was, or?
I think the only times I shot guns when I was drunk out of my mind in the middle of the woods in Kentucky. That was a really good time, actually. I could see why you all love guns so much. It's really cool.
They're fun. The guns are fun. They're fun to shoot the gun. It's fun.
But nukes are better because you can use them in rescue missions.
But yeah, for the Scottish among us, you'll be happy to know that among the first proclamation of King Charles III will be that he respects the Scottish people and specifically Scottish Presbyterianism. That is in the first oath any new majesty must take.
Oh, good.
Well, that feels great. That's excellent. I feel reassured, don't you, David?
I do. I'm so glad that he's pledging allegiance to Ibrox.
Meanwhile, between D-Day and on D+10, that's when she's buried. But on the day beforehand, the Queen's 10 pallbearers will be chosen, and they will practice carrying the royal coffin out of sight in a barrack somewhere. British royals are buried in lead-lined coffins. Diana's...
Super glued shut just in case.
That's what happened. Just in case if they don't get all the flags down and she starts emitting radiation. You have angered the dead queen.
You know a new royal's been chosen because of the Cherenkov radiation coming out of the chimney in the barracks.
And apparently,
I like that the pallbearers need to practice. They couldn't just pick 10 pallbearers. Do you know what I mean? 10 random people chosen by lottery. You ever carry?
Just don't drop it. Just don't drop it.
Well, I mean, the dropping it is not entirely out of the question because apparently Diana's coffin weighed more than a quarter of a ton. So
that's too much.
They need the extra time. They need the extra time to fly in the guys from Ghana.
Yeah. And apparently,
hang on, Rob.
Yeah.
Rob. Why is their coffin actually meant to be lead-lined? Is there an actual reason?
I don't know. I wish I knew the answer to this question, but I don't.
Ceremonial heaviness.
Yeah. It makes it more of a burden for the subjects who must carry.
I mean,
it
might just be like an honorific for like Henry VIII and George III, who were all like hugely fat, and you don't want to embarrass them after they died. So that's why all the coffins must be heavy now.
It's to symbolise their actual levels of riches, which is why they choose lead.
Yeah. And apparently also the coffins must have a false lid in order to hold the crown jewels, and the rim of the false lid must be at least 3 inches high, because for 9.5 days we park the crown jewels in the coffin, and then we take them out and put them in the hands of the next guy.
Is that so they can like absorb a soul or something?
Yeah,
Fuck.
That's the radiation. Yeah.
If we irradiate the crown jewels, then nobody will steal them.
Actually, that sounds like a kind of Tony Blair era anti-theft policy. Just irradiate all the things that like are important to society.
Yeah. What were
and we
those
can
things
catch people using fucking Geiger counters.
What were those things they used to put outside shops to deter teenagers?
Oh, the mosquito alarm?
Yeah, mosquito right on the top of the coffin. And make a high-pitched noise to chase away children.
It might attract
a very legal man.
For fuck's sake.
Well, there's our first cut of the episode. Second,
Do you want
I
me to
suppose.
say that joke? Just, I live in America.
No shit. Since we're off topic a second, I actually did consult legal advice to see whether we could get around this using you guys, and the answer was no, because it's still published in the UK. Otherwise, I would have absolutely been down for it. So, sorry to disappoint.
I appreciate that you, made a lawyer look up the answer to that question.
No, do you know the sad thing is he didn't even have to look it up. I just heard a sigh on the other end, and that was that.
But yeah, said one former official, palace official, there will be no concession to modernity in any of this. There will be cocked hats and horses everywhere. So it really will be, we're just going to be doing the only thing that Britain is still good at, which is pageantry with horses taking a shit.
Well, I'm looking forward to the security services defending this with muskets then.
Well, I say with horses, there's actually one thing that won't be done by horses, which is once the coffin comes out of the cathedral and goes to the actual burial site, it's not drawn by horses anymore, it's drawn by 192 sailors.
What? Why?
What?
You already have the horses. That doesn't make any sense. That's bad resource allocation.
You need to you use the horses as beasts of burdens, not the people. You have to pay the people.
No. Expressly,
No. This is
Britain. The entire point of this is to demonstrate chosen austerity.
The reason we use sailors instead of horses on the exit is that I think at the burial of either Victoria or Prince Albert, once the horses ran out of control and almost like barreled the coffin into a crowd until like a group of sailors
that would have been sick.
And apparently, like, a group of sailors jumped in at the last moment and, like, pulled the coffin through London to its final destination. And that's why still 192 sailors pull the Majesty's coffin through the streets of London.
This is the really funny thing about all, like, royal and military traditions in Britain. Every single one of them is the repetition of an almost complete fuck-up that was just saved. That's the only time things changed.
It's really strong. I meant to do that kind of energy. It runs through all of the pageantry.
No, apparently this is quite
like
counter-historical, because there were a couple of funerals, it mentioned in the article I read for this, that, like, it's not Victoria, but one of her brothers or something or other. It's in that time that some foreign dignitaries wrote that the undertakers at the funeral were drunk out of their fucking minds and, like, fumbled everything up. So at these royal funerals where, like, the courts of Europe were present, everybody's like, these British people cannot fucking organise a funeral to save their lives.
Do you ever think that Britain's anti-communism bent it basically got started because they said under no circumstances can we allow Marxism to be involved in the funeral, and people really misunderstood it?
But it strikes me that all of these ancient traditions are like only a couple hundred years old at best.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah,
only been done a
feels
couple
like it's
times.
cheating a little bit.
Yeah, it's like no concession to modernity. Well, you should at least be replicating stuff from before like 1500 then. Come on, guys.
Look, the fact that you weren't a country yet doesn't mean that we can't put on absurd hats from 2,000 years ago and sing in a language nobody understands. It's, it's not our problem.
What, British?
But I mean,
Shouldn't you be speaking French in that case?
But of course, the main thing that will happen, and that's something.
If they really want to embrace like ancient tradition, they should just bury her under a giant pyramid at the London resort,
which would admittedly be pretty sick.
That would be amazing. I would buy a ticket.
That would be a reason. Yeah, that would be a reason to make it an actual tourist destination, rather than this sad also-ran Disney that it looks destined to be.
I mean, it's gonna be.
Do some like weird Lenin's casket shit. Just embrace it, you fucking freaks.
Put her in the O2.
Yeah.
What else are they going to use it for? Boom,
mausoleum. What are they using it for currently?
Abseiling
center.
It was
is it an abseiling thing now?
It was a Nightingale hospital. It was a Nightingale hospital, wasn't it? Like a temporary COVID hospital.
Oh yeah, that's right. There was a bunch of empty beds in it for a while.
Yeah, because no Nightingale hospitals actually got used.
Oh, well, if the empty beds are still in there, they can use it as student
genius
housing.
Country.
But yeah, I mean, the main thing that, of course, will happen, apart from all this pageantry business, is the total and hysterical breakdown of the British nation. And that will be a sight to see for everybody.
Oh, I'm excited to see
yeah.
to go on Twitter the day of. Those are going to be some not soon forgotten posts.
Genuinely, we were talking about this the other day, and we wouldn't be surprised if they turned off the internet for the day. Like that's possibly the only way.
You are not a children, and you cannot mourn like this.
Yeah, it is just going to be like the entire, like 50% of the nation at least is going to be like mad red nude online, aren't they?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
And the other 50% is going to be trying to make an appointment with a tattooist to get God Save the Queen updated.
But yeah, apparently already all the government ministries have been said that they're not allowed to tweet anything that's not approved by their government head of communications during the mourning period. And they must put all the banners on their Twitter pages must go to black, and they may only wear like the crown emblem of the ministry as their avatar and nothing else. So that's all sorted out.
See, it's all being done to tradition.
Yes,
Exactly.
we're gonna have heartfelt messages mourning the Queen instead of updates on the status of the Northern Line, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, the last time when
good.
Prince Philip died, they
Yeah.
just changed all of the timetables to like this really weird grayscale that nobody could read. It was in grey text on a grey background. Well done, guys.
I mean, London turned into City 17 for Prince Philip dying, so I can only imagine what's going to happen to it when the Queen dies.
Yeah.
There's going to be some, like, fucking fallen London dragged into hell kind of shit, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean,
can only
Gerard Butler's going to show up for some reason. Yeah, it's going to get real weird.
The question is, can they turn off the internet before Ricey and Gibbo announce their death over Snapchat?
But yeah, the estimate is that there'll be so many people in London for the funeral that it will be like the city will be officially full. I don't know what that means, but like they'll literally pack out London to the rafters. Like there'll be no more space for anybody. That's the expectation.
Fuck, I love a super spreader event.
Oh yeah.
They'll have to close all
that's
the
tasty.
gates. They did keep the gates, right, for tradition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You better fucking hope they kept the gates there.
I don't actually know. I know some of the wall is still there for like the actual city of London, but like.
And moving swiftly along.
Moving swiftly along from the ridiculous of the past to the ridiculous of the future, I thought we'd burst into our main topic of the evening.
Oh no.
I've read two things, and I want to present them as a contrast, if you will, a compare and contrast on the pressing issue of seasteading.
Oh yes.
Are we talking about international
some
waters?
of this stuff.
Yes, we are
We
spending
are.
the rest of this episode talking about international waters.
I thought you were
no,
saying we were
right,
going
I could
to we were spending the rest of this episode in international waters. I was like, when is the boat picking me up?
Yeah, we gotta get down to the Schuylkill real fucking quick.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you pick up anything from the rest of this episode, it's please don't go on board when libertarians are around, because nothing good will happen.
No.
Safe advice for all seasons.
Can I just check? We're obviously talking about international waters. How many jokes about Jeffrey Epstein, Prince Andrew, and others are coming down the pipeline because of
I
this?
haven't got any prepared. I mean, I can't control the rest of you.
I think at some point someone's probably going to say something like the HMS, technically it's a phoebophilia.
Well, there is this. Half of this story does involve a boat. So I read two things. One thing is absolutely brilliant. It's an article by Sophie Elmhurst in The Guardian called "The Disastrous Voyage of the MS Satoshi, the World's First Cryptocurrency Cruise Ship," which is
The fucking what now? No, it isn't. No, it isn't. Shut up.
What makes it? Does
What?
it mine on board? Do they mine Bitcoin on board?
yes.
Do they at least use some sort of cogen system to reuse the waste heat to power the boat?
Probably not. No.
Okay.
Anyway, but all shall be revealed within the article. Because the other thing that I read, because that's the practical side of being a libertarian on the high seas. The other thing I read, it's much less good, but much even funnier, I think, is a book called Seasteading: How Floating Nations Will Restore the Environment, Enrich the Poor, Cure the Sick, and Liberate Humanity from Politicians.
All right, Peter Thiel, calm your ass down.
This is by a guy called Joe Quirk, Quirk.
It's not a real name.
Yes, that's real.
I wonder what his quirk is.
You don't want to know.
He only has
Technically, it's a phebophilia, actually.
And the co-author is a guy called Patry Friedman. And if you think, oh, I know that name, Patry Friedman, you would be correct, because he is the grandson of Milton Friedman.
Oh, of course he fucking is.
Jesus Christ.
Fuck off.
So yeah, just to set the scene a bit, I'll read you the opening 2 paragraphs from the very good.
You don't have to.
article. Yeah, I will.
You don't have
No,
to. You don't
no,
have
unfortunately.
Oh, no.
No, this is the thing with Rob. He does have to. This is a horrible compulsion.
One evening in 2010, in a hushed San Francisco auditorium, former Google engineer Patry Friedman sketched out the future of humanity. The event was hosted by the Peter Thiel Foundation, which defends and promotes freedom in all dimensions. From behind a large lectern, Friedman, grandson of Milton Friedman, laid out his plan. He wanted to transform how and where we live, to abandon life on land and all our decrepit assumptions of the nature of society. He wanted, quite simply, to start a new city in the middle of the ocean. He called it seasteading, homesteading on the high seas, a phrase borrowed from a software engineer with whom he had founded the Seasteading Institute in 2008, helped by a $500,000 donation from Peter Thiel. In a 4-minute vision dump...
Please, I need you to stop saying Peter Thiel that way. It sounds too much like a name.
I was about to say, yeah.
Technically, he's a phebophilia.
Jesus.
In a 4-minute vision dump, Friedman explained his rationale. Why, he asked, in one of the most advanced countries in the world, were they still using systems of government from 1787? If you drove a car from 1787, it would be a horse, he quipped.
Okay. When I think of really modern institutions that are all very up to date and have no references to tradition, what I think is sailing on the high seas. Yes.
Yeah.
Let's think of government as an industry where countries are firms and citizens are customers, he declared.
Let's not do that.
The worst performing industries kill their own customers and lose trillions. So the idea is, how do you get away from governments? That's simple. Go to sea where there are no governments. Quote Patry Friedman, let 1,000 nations bloom on the high seas.
For fuck's sake.
Jesus wept.
All flagged under Libya.
Yeah, or Panama. Take it back.
Libya and Panama will be returning in this article.
This is slightly less stupid than going into space to escape government, I guess, but only marginally so.
So, what I'll do is, for the rest of today's podcast, I'll tell you a bit about some of the weird ideas in the book, and compare and contrast them with the reality of what happened when a cryptocurrency cruise liner based on libertarian principles tried to set sail and park itself in international waters just outside Panama. So, a little bit of theory first. The fundamental idea behind seasteading is that you need to do it because all the physical land has been colonized. So you can never create a totally new nation on Earth because countries exist. So therefore, if you want to build a new country based on pure libertarianism, you have to go out to sea.
Is this why Quincy lived on a boat?
No. I have no idea which one's Quincy.
I'll never mind then. Right.
All right. First failure of the evening.
It's not so bad, really.
Yeah,
watch more daytime TV, mate. Fucking hell.
We're 40 minutes in before we had a bomb. That's a lot better than our podcast does.
The problem there is Rob's terminally Dutch, and they don't watch Quincy. It's too wholesome for the Dutch.
Unless it has a nonce postman, I'm just really not interested. This is true.
Yeah.
So the concept of a seastead community in the libertarian book that I read opens it as such. What if the way to decrease ocean pollution is to increase ocean population? The way to decrease the number of wars is to increase the number of countries.
No.
The way to discover political solutions is to empower your political enemies.
No. What? No.
What if we won't need to fight?
Has anyone actually measured the effect that it would have on climate change if the ocean was full of idiot skeletons? Maybe they might be onto something. Run some tests.
We're going to take these cruise ships, we're going to fill them up with all the idiots and a whole bunch of bunker sea oil, and then we're going to sail them out to the ocean, and then they'll sink.
Well, that is pretty close to seasteading.
Yeah.
What if we won't need to fight when we can float? What if it's easier to float?
Fuck off!
What if it's easier to float than to fly? What if we built civilization in the wrong place? And what if you could create your own micro country?
I know that they.
I'm going to become the fucking Joker.
I know that they mean that as if well, we've built civilization, but what if we did that in the wrong place? But I took it as a hypothetical. What if we built a civilization, but in the wrong place? Wouldn't that be amazing?
This feels like they're attempting the Human Instrumentality Project with the International Waters Scrolls rather than the Dead Sea Scrolls.
I mean, I like the idea of getting a time machine and getting really angry at that one fish that came out of the water. It's like, no, go back. You're in the right place. What are you doing?
Go back. No, bad. You got to spritz it with the water bottle.
So let me present you in a nutshell their vision of the future. Let me read you a little bit. Imagine 10,000 homesteads on the sea, seasteads, where ocean pioneers will be free to experiment with new societies. Aquatic citizens could live in modular pods that can detach at any time and sail to join another floating city, compelling ocean governments to compete for mobile citizens like companies compete for consumers. A market of competing governments, a Silicon Valley of the sea, would allow for the best government to emerge peacefully, unleashing unimaginable progress at a rate which would generate solutions to the oldest social problem. How do we get along? By such means, an economic and moral argument could become a technological experiment.
Okay, but when they talk about competition, I'm picturing just getting a pirate galleon and just cannoning the fuck out of them.
Absolutely.
Well, later on in the book, we can do this now. Later on in the book, there's a Q&A session which addresses some thorny issues.
Does it have a question? What if a pirate galleon turns up?
It does actually. I mean, it doesn't mention the word galleon. It does say, yeah, but what about sea pirates? To which the answer of the libertarians is, well, only 2% of the world's sea lanes are infested with pirates at the moment, mainly off the coast of
at
Somalia.
the moment.
At the moment, yeah.
Think of all that Bitcoin you could steal.
I was about to say, I mean, you could probably form a whole government around piracy. There was an old Doctor Who about this, in fact.
But yeah, the great answer to this is, yeah, there might be pirates, but the UK, the US, and other nations patrol the sea lanes outside Somalia to keep it safe. So we're just going to assume that those boats will also protect our floating cities. Otherwise, literally, the end of this little Q&A bit literally says, don't park in a bad neighborhood.
Oh my God.
Duly noted. Thanks, boys. Problem solved.
In this primal soup of societies, we would have variation by government and selection by citizens. Variation and selection, the same magic recipe that drives rapid progression in ecology, technology, markets, and science. market competition among seasteads could bring about
Fuck off!
what Patrick Friedman calls a Cambrian explosion of governments.
Oh my god.
I thought these libertarian people hated governments. Now they just want to infest the world with them.
But
Yeah.
if they're uwu small bean governments, it's all right.
Yeah, exactly. In a floating city, there will be no need for demolition, a Dutch aquatect explains. You can detach components and rearrange them to form new neighborhoods, creating dynamic urban development. Water-based districts can adjust to new needs at fluid rates unimaginable in land-based cities.
Aquatect sounds like something I would put on my CV if I'd spent the day making sandcastles.
Oh, don't worry. The community of people that is around this and is offering services in the world of seasteading call themselves aquapreneurs, which I think maybe...
Are you sure it's not pedaqua-files?
Go away!
Couldn't quite make it as a shipwright, so I called myself an aquatech. No, I've never made any ships. Why do you ask?
So this is Patrick Friedman talking a little bit about the startup country that needs to be born at the Libertarian Conference.
Startup country, fucking hell.
We need a new physical country, a new frontier. The next frontier is the ocean, with a little technological innovation. In 10 years, these things will exist on a ship. In 2 or 3 decades, they'll exist on oil platforms. In 5 decades, there will be floating islands. Humanity needs seasteading, and seasteading needs you.
But we already have one on an oil platform, don't we?
Yeah.
Famously, we mastered ships many decades ago.
Yeah, we still have.
Yes.
And wonderfully, because the whole idea is, this is where we're going to go back into the article, the whole idea is that the first of these seasteads would be built on ex-cruise liners, and that is what happened. So,
I think we finally solved the mystery of why there was a cruise ship in that fucking film from the other
Oh,
episode.
no, we are not talking about that fucking film again. No.
They famously seaworthy vessels, cruise ships. Very, very good offshore and in open seas. Never had a problem there.
So,
No, never.
No.
Especially
Famously.
if you fill them with Bitcoin miners. Are they why the ocean temperature's rising faster than we
It's
expected?
just boiling the ocean around it.
So all of this, this
Pirates
is now...
can't. It's pirate proof because they can't find it in the huge cloud of steam it emits.
So now we're going back to the article where all this theory takes physical shape with the MS Satoshi, a 245-meter long cruise ship previously called the Pacific Dawn and bought by 3 seasteading acolytes. Grant Romand, who made his money from Schedule Box, an app for hairdressing appointments.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Rudiger Koch, a German engineer with a lot of Bitcoin, and a guy called Chad Elwatowski, who's a big guy in libertarian circles. Also,
Pretty big wheel down at the completely legal factory.
there's also a Dutch aquatect involved called Koen Oldhuis, who had a lot of fun design ideas. We had this funny idea, the aquatect told me. In his scheme, the Satoshi would connect via 2 looping tunnels on the water to human-made floating platforms designated for agriculture, manufacturing, and parkland. From the air, the whole community would form the shape of a Bitcoin bee.
Oh Jesus!
I just dropped a
It's
picture.
better than what I thought it was going to be, which was just a whole community that spells out, no, it's not pedophilia. The age of consent is an unjustified law, and furthermore, in this essay, I will.
I just posted a picture of the boat
Yes,
in the chat.
that is it.
and
Yep.
it's very, very sad looking.
Yeah.
Definitely could use a lick of paint.
El Wartowski, by the way, this is not his first attempt at building a seastead. He'd done it once before, and let me quote again from the article. An initial attempt involved a single residential seastead off the coast of Thailand, where El Wartowski and his girlfriend actually lived for 2 months, until the Thai government discovered its existence and declared it a threat to the country's independence, possibly punishable by imprisonment or death. El Wartowski and his girlfriend Summer Girl had to flee the country before the Thai Navy dispatched 3 ships to dismantle the floating box.
Jesus fuck, dude.
There's so many bits of that I just have issues with. I don't know where to start. Summer Girl.
Yes.
Is that a title? Or...
No, that's her actual name.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Oh boy, that's what we're dealing with. Huh?
Yeah, that's
Girl, is it? Okay.
It's completely legal in international waters. That's all I can say.
Because you're all accessories too.
I'm just reminded of that time when what do you call the guy that played Chachi on Happy Days? Scott Baio. When he did, like, people were accusing him of nonsense on Twitter, and he did the tweet about the time he met his wife, and then in brackets, legal age.
This whole seasteading is the whole seasteading thing is basically the same as the implication from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, the master plan of, this is again from the article, from the Bitcoin cruise liner, was to buy the boat, sail it to Panama, park it inside its coastal waters, but off the coast, and do everything on board, all transactions, including food and everything, with crypto. This would, of course, provide freedom from convention, regulations, and obviously taxation. That would just
I bet it provided them freedom from convention.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there would be a whole lot of freedom everywhere. And this would only... Yes. So essentially, the reason they were able to buy this boat is because the entire cruise line had totally collapsed during the corona pandemic. So the ships were going cheap. The ship was originally built for $280 million but sold to the Bitcoin 3.0 for $9.5 million, which I think you'll agree is quite a bargain. Yeah.
Well, that's actually just because
well-looking ship.
Over the process of the Bitcoin transaction that they bought it, Bitcoin crashed by a huge amount. Bad deal for P&O Cruises there, but oh well.
Now, the weird thing is the Panamanian government wasn't exactly opposed to this. They actually thought it might be a good idea and had given it like preliminary permission.
Okay, but they're fucking Panama. What do they know?
Yeah, no, you idiots.
No, well, they don't know that much because they put this permission for the ship to be parked off the coast under its sustainable tourism master plan. So I have my doubts.
Well, they're going to get people to come and take diving tours of the wreck.
The whole thought process was probably like, that's a boat. We're a flag of convenience. Okay.
Fuck it.
Fuck it.
So the first thing these guys do, of course, is they start a Reddit Q&A. Hi, we just bought a cruise line.
Of course they do.
Yeah. That's if this had happened 10 years earlier, it would have been a goon project. I mean,
yes.
Groverstead.
Is that ship long enough that you could put a zip line on at the terminal children? Use it for the disposal of evidence.
So during the Q&A, they get into some of the more practical things about running a crypto Bitcoin cruise liner. The first question is naturally, where the fuck's the energy coming from to power not just the ship, but also all the Bitcoin mining rigs? They say we would do it with generators based on land and run a cable out to the ship, and that would just power
We'll
it.
do what now?
Just put a bunch of generators on land, run a cable under the water, and then plug it into the ship. And then,
all right. You know what? Why the fuck not?
Yeah,
Just
good
stringing
idea.
stringing a bunch of four-way plugs like out into the ocean.
Hold on, I gotta go down to the Home Depot, get a couple extension cords.
Everything about this is already so goddamn cursed.
But that would only be stage one, because afterwards they would install enough solar panels on the cruise liner to make it an eco-friendly Bitcoin mining cruise liner.
What?
Right, so we need to install enough solar power capacity for the ship, which is already pretty difficult, I would guess.
Hefty.
But then we also need to install 50 times that much to run the graphics cards.
Yeah.
I would have to imagine that if it was an easy task to like run a ship on solar power, they would do that. You know what I mean? Like,
I do want to make sure that you understand that the 3 Bitcoin cruise line directors also specified that all Bitcoin rigs would need to be in your cabin.
Oh my god!
That is the heating problem solved.
Yeah. Listen, there's one company that makes electric boats. It's called General Dynamics Electric Boat. The type of electric boat it makes runs on nuclear power. So, that's what these guys have to do.
Will.
I mean, the second need after power is, of course, internet connectivity. Which
the thing is, like world governments are jealously hoarding like all the nuclear power and won't let 3 idiots with a boat have any, presumably because of the implication.
Yes. Once you're in international waters, you can do anything with a nuclear reactor, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
They just need to get it out there with some diesel generators to start, and then I'm sure it's not too hard to build one at sea.
Well, I mean, the mega law that governs the high seas is the UN Convention on the Laws of the Sea, and that doesn't say anything about nuclear reactors, so you're good.
Exactly.
So, all good. Internet, by the way, of course.
Yeah, there's nothing about it in the Pirates Code either.
You could probably, if you get a letter of marque from some country that doesn't really give a shit, Panama, and then you could seize a nuclear reactor from a U.S. Navy vessel.
Yeah, all right. I'm with you.
Yeah,
I'm just picturing these clowns docking for supplies, and they all come off the boat glowing like LeChuck from Monkey
Island. So internet would at first be through a cable, also just connected to the shoreline. Run 10 miles out to sea or something.
Yeah, just the world's longest Cat 5.
What they need to do is rebuild the Great Eastern to just lay the cable behind them as they go.
And internet would be free for all at first for the first couple of months, but then would be metered afterwards because, of course, if you're a libertarian, you don't want to pay for other people's crypto rig and crypto transfers.
Oh yeah, obviously. Yeah.
Yes.
The amazing thing was then the attention to the thorny question of how are you going to eat. Due to safety on board, no microwaves are allowed in any rooms, so all cooking had to be done in the ship's single restaurant. But don't worry, they worked it out. Parts of the kitchen would be rented out so people could cook individual meals.
For fuck's sake.
Good Lord.
Oh.
So in case you were wondering how much it would cost you to be on this amazing, on the Bitcoin cruise liner, the MS Satoshi, a no windows cabin on the interior of the ship would cost you a measly $570 US a month, to the most luxurious, expensive option, which would have a balcony, and that would be yours for $719 a month.
I'm very surprised that the no windows cabin costs less than the one with windows.
I would look forward to running my Bitcoin rig inside my no windows cabin in the inside of a cruise liner. I think that would just be
That's
really
a great
fun.
idea. Now, this is my question is I thought this was a Bitcoin ship. Why is it not denominated in Bitcoins?
It's a good question.
That's a good question, actually. Yeah. I mean, they did say they would accept all major coins, essentially. Like, you could pay with 10 or 12 different coins, and like how you would exchange the one for the other is probably a question best not worth considering.
Yeah, you can pay for everything with crypto, but they have to price it in like a currency that doesn't go up and down constantly.
So they've admitted that they've admitted the superiority of dirty fiat currency. Then.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Well,
and in case you wanted to take a pet, that would be possible, but it also caused a multi-page car crash on Reddit, leading to the three founders creating a 2-page official document with pet rules, such as they can weigh no more than 20 pounds, they may bark no longer than 10 minutes at a go, and infractions, either 3 times a month of more than 10 minutes of barking or more than 5 a year, the pet would be expelled.
That doesn't sound very libertarian to me.
yeah, I was about to say.
That just sounds like an HOA.
They're just trying to they're trying to keep alpacas out.
I'm just picturing everyone trying to train their dog to bark for 9 minutes and 55 seconds. And no longer.
Yeah, what's the interval between barking sessions?
Yeah.
Throwing dog poo overboard, by the way, would also incur a $200 fine.
Stop fighting me! What?
Yeah, it's very libertarian. That's because essentially you sign up to all this voluntarily as part of a big social contract. So if you sign up to it voluntarily as part of a contract, you're fine, because you know what you're getting yourself into on the Bitcoin mining ship.
Do you know
this? Yeah.
Do you know what you're getting yourself into on the Bitcoin mining ship?
Probably you do not, because as the rest of the article will make very clear, the three founders of the Bitcoin mining ship also didn't know what they were getting themselves into.
Oh no!
I keep hearing on the Bitcoin mining ship to the tune of On the Good Ship Lollipop.
But let's leave the ship behind and let's venture once more into more theoretical approaches to seasteading on the high seas. One of the things that was proposed was to build which is something that's being developed by Japanese Bitcoin enthusiasts and seasteaders, is a thing called a green float, which is a giant floating arcology, a 1,000-meter high skyscraper made of magnesium, which would rest on a giant lily pad platform, which would contain the forest, the cattle, the manufacturing facilities, etc., etc. Supposedly, they'll have built 2 of these things in Tokyo Bay by 2025.
No, they won't.
I looked. I didn't see a single construction sign anywhere, so I'm not sure that's happening. But I do have a brief design spec for you, a nice picture, which I will put in the chat for you, and which you can find on the YouTube, dear listener.
No, we don't do YouTube versions of the Patreon episodes.
Oh, okay, well then you just have to imagine it.
Go fuck yourselves.
Check the Discord.
I like
we'll
how they
post
have
it in the Discord.
This is our plant factory, they call it. Interesting.
Yeah.
That's not usually how I term that. I would call it a farm.
Yeah.
not really.
No, the plants are specific for like generating oxygen and like doing different things. The natural farms, as you can see, are on the lily pad. This is a audio medium, of course, but the design of this is a big floating lily about 3,000 meters wide with sort of a big flower sticking out the top of it. The stem being the plant factory and the flower itself is the city in the sky.
And what does it look like from above? Is it like the Reddit logo or something?
I'm no maritime engineer, but one thing I'm looking at this and as I'm seeing, it's very top heavy.
It is quite top heavy. Yes.
I understand is not good in boats because they can flip over.
I would imagine those spikes are possibly like lead lined and full of dead monarchs or something.
Well, I mean, these things are designed to be placed in coastal waters, and specifically and only coastal waters around the equator, because there are less hurricanes there and less tsunamis because of, I don't know, oceanographic reasons that I don't fully understand.
And it's made of magnesium, you say?
Yeah, because you can harvest magnesium by sticking a big metal grid in the ocean and then running a current through it, and then after a while the magnesium accretes onto the metal grid, and then you just lift it out, scrape the magnesium off.
Oh, right, okay. I thought you were explaining they were going to grow this thing or something.
This is apparently known as the Wolf-Hilbert's technique. With the Wolf-Hilbert's technique, aquatic engineers simply immerse a metal grid in the ocean, apply a small electric current, and minerals floating through the mesh bond will electrochemically be bonded to the charged metal.
All right, so it's that one shitty experiment you do in high school chemistry.
Probably, yeah.
There's something magnesium does, very readily, which is
is it have a good time?
It will catch fire very violently and sometimes even explode. I assume they're using some kind of magnesium alloy here that would make that less likely, but I don't think I'd want to be here if it caught on fire. Magnesium also reacts violently with water to create that fire, right? Which is another potential issue you may have with a magnesium-framed floating skyscraper lily pad.
I have to ask, like, it's colour-coded on the diagram, so it's red for the city in the sky, green for the plant factory. Is that piss storage in yellow?
Piss is stored in the pylons, I think, as the saying goes. No, because all natural waste would be 100% recycled above the inside the floating lily pad, so you would be totally safe. It'd be very cool. If you're wondering, by the way, how these things, which are meant to float in like lagoons, essentially, they're not to be. I don't think they're even designed to be more than 12 nautical miles. They won't make it into international waters. Like, you would just bolt these onto the shore, essentially.
This seems reasonable.
Yeah, but if you're wondering how they're going to be powered, this I also found very amazing. At first, energy will come from wave, wind, ocean thermal, and solar power, but that will eventually be replaced by the following. They will generate energy from satellites with a receiver station on the lily pad.
Yes, microwave power. I love it.
Yeah, what?
Yes. By 2040, the Japanese Space Agency plans to beam microwave energy from satellites to Tokyo. 2 giant mirrors in orbit could reflect sunlight onto the solar panels in space. These would collect power that could be beamed down to antennas in Tokyo Bay, which could convert the microwave energy into DC electricity, about 1 gigawatt, equivalent to a nuclear reactor plant.
Oh, yes.
Why not, man? Why not, man?
I love it. This really has the feeling of like a very specific type of keys that you would jingle to catch the attention of the House of Sound.
Well, the microwave power thing is actually there's some interesting physics behind it. It is actually a more practical idea than you might think. Up there with fusion power, right? In that. Well, you could probably do it, but someone would have to give a shit enough to do it when we have oil instead.
Is it a more practical idea than a giant magnesium skyscraper in the sea, though?
Oh yes, absolutely, absolutely. The microwave power plant is probably the most practical part of this design.
God, that's fucking depressing.
And I mean, if
build it.
You might think, right, if you build this thing right next to the coastline of, say, Hong Kong, which is next to a country, say, like China, who might have something to say about, the rules and regulations going on in such a place, because the idea is that these lily pads are designed to be their own civilizations and nation states. The reason that they wouldn't...
Just setting up fucking Taiwan too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So naturally, the question arises is like, why wouldn't China essentially invade the lily pad and just take it for itself because it can?
Because they'd be embarrassed to be associated with it? I'm assuming.
That wouldn't be very libertarian. I don't know. I'm struggling here.
What's the Chinese for you've broken the social contract?
A Chinese laugh of a bad episode of Stargate Atlantis.
No,
frantically screaming about the NAP as I get microwaved to death.
That's true. You could reposition the microwave satellite to beam the microwave onto the attacking ship, which I don't know if that would work or not.
You could beam the microwave directly onto the magnesium pillar.
Oh yeah, and it just starts sparking and explode. Yeah, it'd be like a piece of tinfoil.
No, but the real reason you know that it would all work out and essentially be fine is that the theory goes is that these little city-state lily pad things would be so economically successful that all other nation states would essentially be so baffled by how successful they are that they would never invade. You know, like China didn't do Hong Kong.
Okay,
Yeah, I love this crazed shit.
That's how Singapore maintains sovereignty, right?
Yeah, that is. Actually, Singapore is specifically cited as an example of a thriving democracy that proves that these things could work.
I'm just picturing these guys writing like a guide for how to like survive an attack by a nation state. You know, like those things where they go like, "Oh, if a bear like attacks you, just play dead."
Yeah.
Pretty much.
If a bear attacks you, just prove that you have more economic value than it.
But the way the economy would grow this big is that all seasteads and these lily pad things would all be special economic zones where there is no regulation or taxation.
No.
So basically, you'd create a series of floating Dubais, Shenzhens, and Mauritius specifically, another success story.
You're about to say free ports, aren't you?
So they're just,
yes, I am. These are essentially floating free ports.
So they're coming up with ideas which have been successfully pioneered primarily by communist China, then, for their libertarian project.
And also on land.
Yes.
Mauritius, by the way, is a great example, and I'll cite you why they think so. Much to the chagrin of Indian regulators and tax collectors, about 80 to 90% of foreign direct investment into India flows through Mauritius via private equity, hedge funds, and mutual funds. This is reported in the report Mauritius, an economic success story. Mauritius is commanding better market share by offering better deals. So, you know, you wouldn't invade the place with the better deals now, would you?
Yes, I would. Yes, I fucking would. I would, and I would make them a vassal state.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I don't understand why they don't just, you know, come out and say, listen, we're going to put cannons on these things. If we were putting cannons on these things, I would think they were more serious.
No, specifically, they say in the Q&A that that the military isn't necessary because it will all just be the free marketplace of ideas. And if you have good contracts, you don't need a military.
I have a free
I too would
market
have a
idea.
crazy town.
I have a free market idea.
It's called a fucking privateer navy.
Yeah, this is my entry into the marketplace of ideas as I prime the cannon for fire.
Yeah.
But won't large countries invade seasteads? China has not invaded Hong Kong. First line.
Yet. Big ol' yet there.
Yeah, something tells me I'm not going to worry about China invading. I'm going to worry about someone funded by the United States.
But
United Fruit?
No! But how rebellious can seasteads be in the face of military land-based empires? The Cayman Islands, with no standing army, adopts a spiteful stance towards US and EU regulatory policy, getting rich by welcoming financial mavericks and medical outlaws from other nations. Imagining an island nation that imposes no tax whatsoever on all types of gains in income. So essentially the answer is they would never be taken over because nobody's ever attacked the Cayman Islands.
I wonder
That's
why.
literally how that works out. That's a very curious question. And there's one other special thing that is like Dave devoted an entire chapter to, because it's not just deregulated finance and, you know, slave pits that would make these arcologies thrive. The other thing is their health industry. What if, and hear me out, your hospital was also on a cruise ship and it could have the best of top talent and no regulation and also not pay taxes?
The only good way this works, it's not even good, is that some abortion clinics operate in international waters to get around local prohibitions on abortion, but that's not the same as this.
No, what these guys specifically want to do is they want to do stem cell therapy.
They want to do Bioshock, yeah.
Once again, you guys are too good at this because BioShock is another thing that is specifically mentioned in the book.
Why would you mention
Why? Do they remember how it went? Like, not good is how it went.
Yes.
Question: didn't you see the movie Waterworld? Didn't you ever play the game BioShock? Answer: fiction is meant to entertain, not describe reality.
Whatever you say, you fucking weirdos.
Real seasteading has never been tried or even accurately depicted in fiction.
Okay.
European Fabulous published popular fantastical stories about early America that were as wild as Waterworld, as romantic as The Love Boat, and as violent as BioShock. And those have all been forgotten because the reality always turns out to be much
I remember
more interesting.
BioShock. I just brought it up.
I love that they mentioned The Love Boat there, though.
There was definitely a difference in America compared to seasteading, which is America was made of land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, violent expropriation of said land.
Yes.
Yeah, well, skipping that step with the water, you can't violently expropriate water.
No, but the water will.
Let's talk to Nestle about that.
No, because the UN Convention on the Laws of the Sea says you can't, and if the document says that's illegal, then you can't do it. We know that.
We do.
So to speak, yeah.
Anyway, back from the amazing lily pad configurations in the higher ideas of seasteading, back to our three intrepid explorer libertarians. They take charge of the vessel, I can't remember where, somewhere in the Mediterranean. They take charge and immediately have to hire a crew of 40 mainly Ukrainian nationals through a service company called Columbia Cruise Services to cook, engineer, clean, and also captain the boat because none of the three of them know how to do any of these things.
Excellent. Good start.
We didn't know anything about running a cruise liner, Roman told me. So it was like we didn't want to have to figure all this stuff out.
Incredible.
Amazingly, before they set off, and because they're rubes who've just bought a giant boat without knowing what they're getting into, they also forget to get new seaworthiness certificates, where it's essentially no country will allow you into their waters if you don't have these certificates, which means that instead of sailing straight to Panama, the boat has to be dry docked and fully tested and the hull fully sealed again, and do repairs on Gibraltar before the MS Satoshi Bitcoin cruise liner sets out to sunny Panama.
Oh, God, don't you just hate the tyranny of the state?
It's bad to say. I mean, the first thing these libertarians always do when they start a project like this is like, oh, how do we outsource everything? We're not going to do any work to bring this this vision to reality. We're more ideas guys.
That's why the first step they really take is starting the wiki.
Well, one of these guys still runs a annual festival where they do this in minimum, but I think on the Mississippi or something. David, I sent you, and that does have a wiki. It's like everybody can bring their own boat and they can bolt them together on the Mississippi for a few days and have a big libertarian party.
Hell yeah, Red Death Yacht Club, great song. Craig Morgan, look it up.
On October 29, 2019, I think, the MS Satoshi finally set sail to sunny Panama with nobody on board but 3 libertarians, 40 Ukrainian crew members, and a British sea captain. and also 2,500 bottles of whiskey that the Carnival Cruises had left on the vessel and had not unloaded.
Nice.
That's called arbitrage, and it's genius.
I believe that is legally there as under prize rules.
No, they actually gave it to them. They said, no, we can't be bothered to unload it, so you can have the 2,500 bottles of alcohol.
Oh, so they were dumb enough to try and give it back first. Excellent.
So the ship is now in international waters, and it's approaching Panama, but we're not there yet. And this is where the first problem comes, because now libertarians have to interact with the actual nation state.
Was the stuff about the boat not being seaworthy not the first problem?
So the initial idea was that they discussed with the Panamanian government was that they would enter Panamanian waters and then deregister as a ship and instead become a floating residence. Apparently, if you're no longer a ship but a floating residence, you can avoid like a lot of international maritime law also with regards to seaworthiness, I assume. However, at this point, the Panamanian government said, no, we don't think that's a good idea. You should remain a ship, which led to its first major problem, which is if we're still a ship, how do we get rid of our wastewater? Because if you're a floating residence, you can just dump that shit in the harbor where you're staying, essentially, or run a pipe to the shore, along with your internet and your electricity, the poo pipe.
Yes.
So that now the problem of wastewater becomes very real. The boat itself has very efficient recycling plant, but would still need to sail every 10 or 12 days into international waters to empty the poo tanks. And that really was not what the libertarians had in mind.
I would absolutely love to see the forum thread that accompanied this. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, boat slowly filling with shit. What do we do?
Another sort of real-life problem that these guys quickly interacted with, remember they're still sailing to Panama, was that literally no insurance company would touch the Satoshi with a fucking barge pole, naturally, because if there's a combination of insane and litigious libertarians on board, as well as, you know, the concept of a crypto-based cruise liner, no insurance company would, like, have anything remotely to do with it. And naturally, none of this stuff had been figured out beforehand, before they bought the boat, leading one of the three guys to complain on a blog that the maritime insurance business is plagued by over-regulation.
No, you're just a dumbass. The problem is just, it's you, man.
Yeah.
At Panama, lost Fingat.
Oh, fucking hell.
So at this point, we're not even in Panama yet, and the ship is already taking about $1 million a month to run. Fuel costs, staff costs, running costs, just everything. It takes about $1 million a month to run this ship. Because, said Bromond, the only guy who turned up for the interviews, it's huge.
Yep.
Had not worked.
We failed to
They'll
consider,
do that, actually.
We failed to consider boat is big.
It's like that Donald Trump shit. Like, nobody knew this. It's like, motherfucker. You did not know this.
So, in order to cut costs, they want to do something a bit more efficient.
The boat being huge, though, is a plus, because then it takes longer to fill with your own piss, surely.
That's a good point.
So they want to embark on some cost-cutting measures to make the whole enterprise a bit more going, essentially.
My son is also called Embark.
I'll read you a few lines directly from the amazing article. According to Harris, this is the captain, Koch, one of the other libertarians, wanted to try to make the ship more fuel efficient by installing a smaller engine, which he thought he could do while the ship was at anchor. We were like, how are you going to cut a hole in the ship's side big enough to get the engine out, which is below the water level, and not sink the ship? The libertarian shook his head, his memories of his colleague clearly fond, as if perplexed. I was forever saying, no, Rudy, you can't do this. No, Rudy, you can't do that.
Can't just
He
go
should
down
have just
to,
let him do it.
Yeah, just go down.
Yeah,
to
you
the
gotta
pass.
let people make their own mistakes.
Exactly. Discovery learning people.
Go down to Bass Pro Shops, pick up some outboard motors. You're good.
Yep.
Just, you know
By
what
the
I mean?
way-
I'd love to replace the engine on my cruise liner with one I got from like a fucking mini metro or something.
By the way, the ship was still covered by a running insurance, but that insurance was only valid as long as it was just like a sailing cruise vessel. But, said the three amigos, they didn't want to run a travel company, they wanted to run a Bitcoin travel paradise. So the insurance they had was not good enough.
Wow, who could have ever seen that coming?
Before I get to the end of the amazing story of the MS Satoshi, I wanted to take you through
What does the MS stand for?
Motor ship.
Marine ship, I think. Motor ship. Yeah. So I wanted to take you just from a few choice bits from the Q&A session of the seasteading book. Some of which might have already occurred to you. Question 1. What about hurricanes?
Answer, what about them?
Yeah, what about them?
What are you, a cop?
Yeah. Look, we had one like last week. We're fine.
Well, you might be, but you could be better, because what if you were on sea?
Good
thousands of modern oil rigs are already built to withstand hurricanes. So just live on an oil rig. That's fine and cool and good. Small.
What if you're on there? What if you're on their like clown boat? Do you just perish?
No, there's actually just
wake up in Oz and fucking deal with it.
Small mobile seasteads should be able to speedily move away from storms thanks to the global network of weather satellites. Building town-sized platforms that can withstanding hurricanes remains a naval engineering challenge, but we expect these challenges to be met with increasing economic incentives to colonize the seas. Larger sea settlements will be designed, like oil rigs, to endure the worst winds and fierce waves, making them even safer than normal ships.
Your fucking cruise ship just speeding away from a hurricane while a guy hangs out the back attaching new cable to the internet and the power.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? Question 2. Won't seasteads pollute the oceans? We land dwellers pollute the oceans because we don't see where our waste goes. Seasteaders won't be able to live in such denial. On a seastead, the ocean is your backyard. Seasteads that produce the tastiest, most contaminant-free seafood in the world will have a market incentive to restore the oceans.
You can't deny like where your waste goes when decks like G through H are full of like piss and shit.
Yeah, but you're forgetting libertarian innovation because, you know, the guys that make the shrimp seastead, they will buy your shit and feed it to the shrimp. That's how the market works.
Yes, our busiest markets are actually located on our seastead's poop deck. Yes.
The finest magnesium oxide in 100 nautical miles.
Also, with the question of other waste, how would they deal with it? They would just say seasteads would get rid of their trash by barges rather than ships or trucks because that's
put it where.
That's not the where is not described. It just says a market will arise.
That's convenient.
Nothing's ever happened to a garbage barge that was unable to deliver its cargo. That's never been a famous years-long incident. Multiple times.
They should just build a seastead on that like massive garbage patch in the middle of the Pacific.
This is my landfilling seastead. People pay me to dump their trash. People ask me, how do I make the trash go away so quickly? And I don't tell them.
I just take their money and wave. Question, how will seasteads get food? Answer, we've never lived in a city that grew its own food, yet the food in cities is superb. And when we take a cruise, the menu doesn't seem to be all seaweed and fish. Like all island economies, from Aruba to the Isle of Man, seasteads will have to produce something unique to trade for the goods of the world.
So what? A seastead of serfs?
Well, if you have like the medical seastead where you can do stem cell therapy and, you know, highly illegal mutations, then surely with the profits from that you can buy cheese or biscuits or something from shore-bound nations. There's no getting away from the shore in a seasteading economy, by the way. Like, you're just essentially taking license to be a cunt somewhere.
Right, so it's just Elysium but really lazy.
The civilization trading screen, and it's like, I receive food, you receive a robot arm and septicemia.
Well, I mean, and speaking of trading with other nations, question, wouldn't it be more expensive to live on a seastead because of shipping manufactured goods elsewhere to the seastead? Well, that's an interesting question. Shipping costs are astoundingly low. For 10 cents, you can get a bottle of wine shipped from New Zealand to Europe. And the wine auctioning website WineBid offers 1 cent shipping from Europe to the United States if you buy 6 bottles or more. It will not be much more challenging to sustain lines of supply from inland cities than it is to island cities. Ports make all countries rich, and seastead could be all port. Once a seastead can manage a protected harbour for cargo transfer, it will be plugged into the global trade network and distribution system. Over time, the cost of living on a seastead will decrease as its population increases.
I love to put a 3 kilometre wide obstacle in the middle of a shipping lane.
I mean, rip to the Deliveroo driver on a jet ski that's got to take all the shit
out. I also love, it's like, how do we get like massive quantities of food and potable water and fuck knows what else to these things? It's like, well, you could ship a bottle of wine from Europe to the United States pretty easy. I assume this works the same for everything else all the time.
I was about to say, I'm
genius shit.
Not quite seeing how they can get like a 40-foot container onto these seasteads too easily.
Don't worry about that.
They're going to need an army.
Don't worry about that.
They're going to need an army of stevedores on the libertarian ship, who will, of course, immediately unionize because that's what they do.
No, the answer is the Brexit cargo railgun.
And there's one other sort of fatal problem that's addressed with maybe, like, we've introduced some terrifying words, I think, in this podcast so far, but this one I think really takes the cake. There's of course an important question which does come up in the Sweaty Libertarian conference, which is, there's a lot of men here. How are the women?
What about the females?
What about the
my
females?
God.
You do not need to worry about that. Lads, you do not need to worry about that.
Which leads essentially to somebody writing a paper about why women would flock to seasteads, which leads to the word she-steading.
No!
Oh my God!
Fuck you, man.
Oh my God! I could have sworn I read something a couple years ago about like one of the first seasteading conferences, and they decided to correct the gender imbalance on their seastead ship that they only were going to seastead on for like a day. Right, it was just a seasteading cruise. They corrected the gender imbalance by just importing loads of Ukrainian models who were all very bored.
Oh,
But
yeah.
no, this would actually occur naturally and logically because
No, it won't. No, it fucking won't.
Stop saying it.
Because she-steads will be able to deliver more and better
She-stead,
freedom.
she-said by the
Because much like the American frontier in the 19th century, women would have more rights on the seastead than they would ashore, and therefore women would flock to seasteads.
Oh, fuck off.
No.
Please fuck
Wrong.
off.
No.
Yeah, come and live on the danger boat. It's technically more free.
Let me just tell you, this is now... So that's like seasteading and she-steading. Now let's return one final last time to our 3 intrepid explorers above the MS Satoshi. So even before they hit Panama, they run out of money, realize that the vessel has to be sold because they can't make a deal with the Panamanian government, and they make a deal with an Indian scrapyard on December 19. So this is about 7 weeks after they set off from Gibraltar. And everybody gets their cabin deposits back. Everybody who put down the money to start living above the crypto cruise liner. Just to briefly tell you about the 3 guys in the end. the libertarian Al Wachowski goes completely off the deep end. Becomes convinced that the corona pandemic is an elite plot, partly designed by the world government to thwart the existence of the crypto ship and freedom.
Which is true.
Which is true.
You say that.
Yes.
They already had a conspiracy to prevent people living on cruise ships. It's called norovirus.
Maybe some Legionnaires' disease thrown in for good measure.
One other guy, the Coke guy, the German Bitcoin guy, drops out and starts building his own boat in Panama.
Oh,
The last guy, Grant Romand, he of the hairdressing appointment app. This is amazing. I'll just read it to you. Grant Romand, a man more driven by practical issues than by the romantic symbolism of his endeavor, realized that, though the plan had entirely fallen apart, he was still the part owner of a massive cruise ship, and decided to spend the last Christmas aboard, along with the crew. Master key in hand, he wandered around the Satoshi, making sure to enter every room that said, "Do not enter." He toured the engine room and sat on the sun deck. He worked, because he can't help working, even on Christmas Day. But he also went on all the water slides alone.
Huge,
It's like the whole thing is a giant metaphor.
huge. Look at me now, Dad. Energy.
I'd probably also do that.
New Patreon tier.
Yeah.
In a final... By the way, in a bit of final regulatory irony, the scrapping deal with the Indian scrapyard falls through in the end because India isn't a signatory to the Basel Treaty on Hazardous Waste Disposal and is therefore technically not allowed to receive ships with Panamanian registration. But it all worked out in the end because a new UK cruise liner brand called Ambassador, that caters primarily to the 50-plus market, ends up buying these Satoshi for $12 million.
Oh, well.
So in the end, they just about broke even throughout this adventure.
Oh, well, we all have a happy
That's
ending.
nice.
Well, that was actually just because when they sold the ship in Bitcoin, the price of Bitcoin increased a huge amount during the transaction.
Oh. Well, Rob, that was a horrible tale with horrible words, and I didn't like any of it. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I suppose we can wrap it up there. So Liam, Rocz, I'm sorry and thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having us,
Yeah,
and
thanks
go
for
fuck
having us.
yourselves.
I don't know. I think we learned a pretty valuable lesson in how to profitably flip a cruise ship.
Yeah. WTYP Cruise Lines launching 2022.
Yes.
WTYP Cruise Lines ending business 2022.
Right, okay, is there anything that you want to plug, Roz?
Yes, you should listen to my podcast. It's called Well, There's Your Problem. It's a podcast about engineering disasters with slides. Liam and I are on it, as is Alice, who is not here. That's it.
Yeah,
that's all I have to plug.
definitely do listen, do watch, do enjoy.
Yes, it's very good.
Do attend.
Okay. Yeah, all right, we'll catch you later then, folks. Cheerio.
All right, goodbye, gentlemen. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for being Patreon subscribers and, letting me explore the wild world of seasteading.
Yes.
Yes.
Look what you fund. And think about what you've done.